Hello, this is Alex with Grow How. Today we're going to talk about 7 systems that you need to know for off-grid homesteading. Hello, if you're new to Grow How, we cover gardening, homesteading, cooking, and a little bit of history. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can follow our adventures. And let's get on to the main subject, off-grid homesteading. This is something that's really become a thing now, but it's been a thing on and off. I know certainly in the 70s, that was an issue. People were going out and they wanted to live the natural life and all this other jazz, and that's great. But I find that most people that are talking about it, and honestly most people that even come close to doing it, are just woefully unprepared. It's not like going out and having a house and just having more acreage. That alone gets a lot of people is, oh, I don't have a quarter-acre lot anymore, I've got 5 acres, I've got 10 acres, and they're baffled. There's some things that we need to do, and there's 7 systems that I've identified that I think are things that you need to worry about. Now, I say systems because there's going to be some variation, but these systems are to accomplish certain things. The first one is power. How are you getting your power? Solar cells, windmill, biodigester, I guess that might be an option. Probably not the best one, but it could be an option. Are you going to have fuel shipped in? You know, is it going to be propane, coal? Yeah, you can get coal furnaces, by the way. Cold water heaters. You can do all that kind of thing if you look for it. Are you going to be using a fireplace? I got a fireplace over here. You can't see it. What is your energy system or systems going to be? And I'm going to say probably you need to have several. How are you going to maintain that system? Do you know enough about that system to make minor repairs, major repairs? Talk to somebody about what you need to do. Very important to do. If you don't have the energy system, everything else pretty well breaks down. Second one that comes to mind, there's 2, is your water. Now this is going to vary a lot. I live in a place that's semi-arid. My house gets 12, maybe 13 inches a year of water on location. Most of the water I use in my place comes from up in the mountains. It's delivered through a culinary system or an irrigation system. And that's how I get water out. There's no way I could do even 5-10 acres that I could do water on a single property without those collection systems where I live. If you're in Georgia, that can be different. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, that can be different. If you're in Alaska, it's going to be different. Keep in mind water systems. How are you going to do that? The third thing that comes to mind is how are you going to grow things? Again, you know, maybe you grew a great garden on a quarter acre or still do. 5 acres and a quarter acre. You're not going to put 5 acres in grow boxes without spending a lot of money, a lot of hassle, a lot of time. Not necessarily, okay, I don't see it as being practical. Maybe you got an idea that I don't know. That's great. But you're going to have to step up your game to understand systems for growing. How are you going to maintain, you know, your plants? How are you going to keep the weeds down? How are you going to deliver the water? Let's cross over the water systems. All these things that you need to do that you may not have fully planned out. And, you know, you're in the planning stage now probably, and maybe it's years ahead. You need to research all these topics. Okay, so we've got power, water, growing, animal systems. Animal systems are going to tie closely to, if you have animal systems, they're going to tie closely to your plant systems. Plants and animals are made to interact. I mean, animals die, plants feed off the nutrients, animals eat the plants, and, you know, the whole circle of life thing. Even if you're vegetarian or vegan, you may want to consider learning some animal systems that may help you. Not that you're going to necessarily eat the food, but they may help you in certain processes, or they may not. Again, that's something you've got to study and understand the system well enough to know what works for you. So that's number 4, is plant systems. Number 5, financial systems. Once in a while, I'll get somebody that owns a farm and like, how can I make the farm pay for itself? We're putting all this money into the farm, but we're not getting anything from it, and it's really a strain. You've got to have some understanding of what goes in financially and what can come out financially. And a lot of times, with something that's not intended to be a large working farm, a small farm, takes and takes and takes and gives very, very little. I guess if you're rich, maybe that's not an issue, but to me, if you're doing a farm and if you're looking off-grid stuff, you're looking at sustainability. A farm isn't sustainable unless you are working the farm. You've got to work the farm and you've got to make it work financially. It's got to at least pay for itself somehow. There's a lot of measurements you can use, but you need to be aware enough of how to make the finances work. And each individual case is going to be different, or I'd give you that perfect formula. Okay, number 6, social systems. I know you're going off grid. Maybe you want to get away from people. Yeah, I'd love to get away from people. But your neighbors, the people down the road from you, whether it be, a couple hundred yards or a couple hundred miles, they're your closest backup, and they might end up being the ones that when you all get together that help you survive. I just finished a little while ago reading Farmer in the Sky, and it was a great book by Heinlein, and it talks about this neighbor that they meet when they're going to very first check the property, and time again, because this neighbor had the experience and this neighbor had the wisdom and this neighbor had the gumption, they got through situations. And they learned, and then they used that to help other people. So even if you don't feel you need to do that, they're still your neighbors. You're still going to share a fence line with some of them, or a non-fence line if you have enough acres. And you really need to have those systems work. And the 7th, and I just barely thought of this. This is going to be 6, but I was coming down here, and I realized, you've got to have sanitation systems. Are you going to be on the city sewer? Well, if you're off grid, probably not. Going to be on septic tank? Great. What's it going to take to keep that septic tank healthy and running? What are you going to do when it's time to drain that septic tank? Don't have a septic tank? Going to ship it out, the waste? Going to go with an old-fashioned outhouse? Let's not forget solid waste. Just because you're out in this independent area doesn't mean that you can just, go throw it out on the back 40. The waste does affect people around you. It affects the water quality. And those are things you need to think about. You need to be prepared to deal with. So you've got those 7 systems. You've got power, water, plants, animals, financial, social, and waste systems. If you haven't got all those, at least a certain amount of expertise, a little bit of preparation in those areas, a working knowledge of how to talk about it and how to find the help you need, you're not ready to go out and go off grid yet. Really, if you're looking at any kind of acreage, even if you're not off grid, you probably need to at least address those same issues. A couple years ago, a friend of mine gets his water off a well. Well, the pump broke. Okay, what do? Well, you've got to get a new pump. There's your water. Got to have it. And fortunately, he had a secondary water system. I don't know how it works, if it was a separate well or if he's on city for some things and the well for others. But he made it work. But it took a year out of his growing, and it took darn near a year to get the well replaced or the pump replaced. So you got to think about those things, and you got to prepare for those things, and you got to ask questions about those specific things and make sure that you're comfortable that you can answer them, and not just say, "Oh, I'll fix it when it happens." Yeah, I see a lot of that. Be prepared, be ready, be on top of it, and don't just fix it when it happens. I think that's all I got for you today. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe Gardening, homesteading, cooking are going to be some things I really relate to a lot. I think those are some basic human things, at least in my area. Guess if you're in New York, that's different. But hey, I couldn't handle New York. Too many people. Social system doesn't work for me. I've got any questions? Use the comments below. Thanks for coming along. Manana.